What is up, everyone? It is a beautiful day. I'm on the MT-07. Gonna ride around. I'm gonna think of some stories and tell some stories, because that's like one of the main reasons why I made this channel. Is obviously, you know, riding motorcycles, but to tell my stories. You know, my stories is what makes me different from everyone else. Anybody can get a bike, anybody can ride a bike, anybody can learn wheelies. You know, that's one thing. That's just one thing that I do. But telling stories is another thing, and I got some stories. It's just lately I've been so focused on like just riding the bike instead of telling the stories. All right, so the story, since I can just do location wise, I was coming from that way going this way, and I was doing like 140 in my Civic. I had a 2015 Civic SI. It wasn't slow, but it wasn't fast. So I was cooking right by this trailer park. We call it Clown Town. There used to be a sign. Oh, the sign's gone. There was a big clown on the sign, like neon and whatnot. But anyways, I passed by there doing like 140, right? And this is back when I was selling weed. And I had like I just picked up a pound. I just got rid of a half pound, so I still had a half pound on me. At this point right here, I'm still doing like 140. I'm just cooking on the whole freaking road. And then somebody pulled out of the trailer park with their brights on, and they kept like flashing their brights. And I was like, what the fuck? This guy wants to fucking fight. And then I had a slight suspicion that I was a cop, but I was like, nah, he would have turned his lights on. So I got to this light up here, and when I got to the light, I sat there. It was red, but I sat there and I just waited for them to come up. They started going really slow. I couldn't make out what the vehicle it was, and then the light went green. It went green, and I, you know what? I'm gonna do the speed limit. I remember I went 43. It's 45 over there, and I was doing 43 to try to let them catch up to me, because I was gonna fucking hop out on them. And I got to the gas station. I pulled up into the gas station up there, and I was ready to freaking hop out. So what I did was I freaking opened the door and went to hop out. Boom. Cop SUV, 2 cops hop out, and crackhead. I don't know. No, she's probably not a crackhead. She probably just lives around here. It's a bad neighborhood. So there's a gas station down there. I pulled up into the gas station. You know, I got out, whatever, and they were just like, well, I went to get out, and I see them like, oh, and I shut the door. And then they walked out, they're like, you know how fast you were going? Or actually, no, they didn't even say that. They walked up and they just looked at me, and they said, and they smelt it, and they're like, where's the weed? And I was like, oh, it's right here. You know, I knew I was gonna go to jail for probably freaking, you know, reckless driving or whatever. And then I gave them the weed, and they didn't believe that's all I had, because the car stunk so loud. It was some really good gas, you know, it was some really dank weed. So anyways, I handed them the weed, and they searched the car more for more weed. And then I told them, I was like, well, I gotta go to jail, right? And they're like, yeah, you're going to jail. And I was like, all right. So we got into the cop car after they searched for more weed. There wasn't any more weed. And then they're like, your car's pretty fast. He's like, and then I was like, yeah. I was like, how fast is this thing? And they're like, they're like, I'll hit it. And they hit the gas, and it was like really slow. It was an EcoBoost Explorer, but it must have been like the smaller engine, like a 2.7 or something. And it was slow, and they're like, yeah, your car was faster. I was like, yeah, I probably should have ran. They're like, yeah, you could have got away. They're pretty cool cops, mind you. They didn't even do anything about me speeding. They literally didn't even care. They didn't say like anything about speeding. So that was cool. You know, that's the story of how I became a felon. You know, felony probation, all that. And the same day, mind you, they searched the trunk, right? The same day or the next day, I got out of jail, and my car got back to my house and whatnot, and so of course, you know, I smoked weed, so I wanted to smoke some weed. So I started looking around the house, didn't have anything. Looking around the car in case they forgot something. And they did. Mind you, this is like the second or third time I've been raided. You know, not raided, but this time I was pulled over, but I've been raided. And so I open the trunk, I look around, boom, found the freaking empty blunt package, right? Well, it had one cigar, you know, a Swisher. So I had one cigar, and I looked around, I found 3 roaches, right? So what I did was I rolled them 3 roaches up into that blunt and I smoked. With technically, if they left the weed, that makes it legal weed because it wasn't illegal if they didn't take it. So, a blunt of legal weed. But like I was saying, like I've been raided a couple times, and the other story was I used to live in an apartment. It was just me and my dad for the time being before he went to, you know, off to prison for X amount of years. He's still in prison. And I had a filing cabinet that had my weed in it. You know, I had some Dro, you know, some Hydro, some good weed, and I had some mids, some shitty weed, some Reggie, right? And my dad's, you know, steady doing fucking illegal shit. Oh, this is horrible right here. I'm not waiting for this. My dad's steady doing illegal shit, so he had stolen a truck and he kept driving the truck around like it was his, just literally just left a tag on it and everything. That same night I told him, I was like, listen, you need to get rid of that truck. I was like, this is not, you do not need to be doing that. He got rid of the truck at like 10 o'clock p.m., right? 11 p.m. the cops came and raided us. Eight squad cars ready to bust down the door. They were freaking knocking on the door, freaking trying to bust it down. They're like, we know you're in there, come out. And my dad was like, what do I do? And I was just like, listen. I was like, you go to jail. I was like, it is what it is. You go outside, you go to jail. What had happened is they didn't even find the stolen truck. That wasn't even part of why they were there. I don't think they ever even found out about that. He went and broke into a business, right? And just looking for shit, you know, just cracking out, and he didn't even find anything. He didn't even take anything. And what they said that you know, they had cameras, and what the business said is that there was a camera, not the camera watching him, because there was a camera watching him, but there was a camera, like a personal camera, and that camera came up missing. So they searched the I smell some weed right now. They searched the apartment, couldn't find the camera, of course, because we didn't take no freaking camera. And then they looked at my filing cabinet, like, oh, where's the key to this filing cabinet? And I was like, I don't know. And they're like, oh, well, you either gotta find the key or we're gonna break into it. And I told them, I was like, well, that's my filing cabinet. And I was like, it's not his. And they're like, oh, we don't care. So I told him, I was like, well, you're not getting the key. And they're like, oh, that's fine. We'll break into it. And that's where I kept my weed. So they broke into the filing cabinet, right? And then they were like, oh, well, you're gonna have to go to jail because of this weed right here. And then my dad was like, no, it's my weed. Like saying it was his. So he ended up taking the rap for the weed. He went to jail. That was that. And then pretty much from that time on, you know, I was an orphan before then because he was like, he wasn't really in my life that much. But anyways, they fart now. So they took my weed, right? And they took the weed, and once again they left some weed. You know, this is crazy. What they did was, I had a bag of dro and a bag of mids. They took the bag of dro, they left the bag of mids, and that was pretty crazy. So again, you know, I was able to smoke after the cops came. And that's the one story about how I got raided. But, and I do have another story, but I'll leave that for another video. That's gonna be it for this video. I might record another video right now, but you know, that's it for right now, because I don't want this video to be too long, and I want the videos to stay on more on topic than usually. Like, I'm all over the place, so I gotta get better. So peace out.